Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam from Sam Tech, and today I've got another fantastic tutorial in store for all of you Elementor enthusiasts out there. Today we'll be building this gorgeous gallery page to be placed on your website to display artwork or products. I will show you how to create a GIF of a background for this text. This is a special header, as well as the background, and how to edit all of these colors and styling elements to match your own theme. Now keep in mind that we're going to be using free tools, including Elementor's free page builder. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. It really encourages me to continue producing content. So without further ado, let's hop straight into this tutorial. We are now in our WordPress dashboard, keeping in mind that everyone's dashboard may look slightly different, but the general format will remain the same. First thing we need to do is install a plugin. Now I'm going to go to my plugins menu on the left hand side and click on Add New. Here I'm going to search for a plugin. I'm going to start by typing Premium, and we can see that this first plugin over here is the one that we are interested in. Now don't be afraid of the word premium add-ons. This is a free plugin for the moment, and we will not be using any pro features for this video. So let's go ahead and click on Install Now. And I'm going to click on Activate. Now we can see that in my list of plugins, we can have our premium add-ons for Elementor appear over here. There's nothing right now to play around in the settings for. We're able to activate and deactivate certain widgets that we'll be able to play around with in Elementor. But for the moment, there is no configuration needed. We also see that on the left-hand side of the menu bar over here, we also have a premium add-ons for Elementor button, which we can go in and play around with the settings if we were starting from our dashboard. Now the next section, we're going to need to find the page on our website that we want to add our gallery to. And in order to do that, we need to open it up in Elementor. I have created a blank page for the sake of this tutorial. Regardless of what your page looks like, where you want to add your gallery to, you're going to then click on Edit with Elementor on the top bar. And you'll be presented with this set of icons over here underneath the section of the last bit of that page. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this star over here, which represents the premium templates from our plugin. Now on the left hand side, I'm going to scroll down all the way until I find image galleries and accordions. I'm going to click over here. We can see that we have some pro widgets over here. I'm interested in the free ones. For the sake of this tutorial, we're going to use this one over here. So I'm going to click on this preview, and we're going to go ahead and customize all of these settings once we have this inserted into our page. I'm going to click on Insert Without Images over here. And now we can see that we have a very raw gallery which we will need to fill with our own images and text. We will also create a more visually appealing header to be placed over here, as well as play around with all the colors and settings for all of this. So let's go ahead and start editing these sections. We're going to start by adding our images over here in order for us to start visualizing the end result. So let's click anywhere in this section, and we can see that on the left hand side we now have a edit media grid setting panel that appeared. We're going to leave the layout as is for now. What I'm interested in is uploading my images and videos. So let's click on that, and for the sake of this cleanliness of a tutorial, I'm going to start removing these images and simply add my own. So we cannot remove the last one, so let's add an item over here. And I'm going to need to upload an image, so let's click on choose image, go to upload files, and I am going to drag some images from my desktop. I have 8 images over here. Sorry, I have 10 images over here that I'm going to drag. These are some images from other tutorials, but we are interested in these new ones that are uploading. There are some duplicates, and that is not a problem. So once these are done uploading, I'm going to select this first one for now. Let's select this one over here, and I'm going to click on select. Don't worry about the sizing of the images. We're going to fix all of that afterwards. So here's our first image. I'm going to give it a title of butterfly head and a short description. This is my rendition of a butterfly skull. Okay. Category, we're going to give this a category of faces. And link type, we can leave it URL. And here you're able to place a URL of perhaps a buy it now page if this is a piece of art that you are selling, or it can also be a link to any website of your choice. So in this case, I'm just going to simply put a hashtag as a place mark, but feel free to put your own link over here. This is all the information for this image over here. So I can delete the first default image right now by clicking on the X. And I can go ahead and start adding the other images. In a similar fashion, I'm going to scroll down to add item. Now we are in the second image to edit over here. I'm going to do choose image. Since I already uploaded one of these images before, I'm going to click on the next one. Instead of a face, let's do a nature photo. So I'm going to click on that and do select. I'm going to scroll down in the settings, ignoring these for now. I'm going to give this one a title of tropical sky and a description. I will put fall asleep by looking at the sunset. Category, I'm going to give it one called nature. And likewise, I will leave a place mark link of a hashtag. One more thing before I continue, I'm going to scroll up to categories in the settings. Let's click on categories. And I will need to change these categories to the categories of faces and nature. So let's click over here and select this piece of text, and I'm going to write faces. Now we see that the filter buttons over here is going to update. And I'm going to click on the next one, arch, and change that to nature. Don't worry about the formatting and colors. We will edit all of that later in this video. So please stick around till the end, where I will show you how to add styling elements to this gallery. Now that we have two images over here, I'm going to add my remaining 8 images, but I will skip this work and resume with you in just a moment. All right, so we can see here that I went ahead and added the remaining images. So we have 5 faces and 5 nature type images over here. So let's go ahead and start editing this image grid in order to make it a little bit more visually appealing. First things first, on the left-hand side, I'm going to go up to layout, and we're going to select the number of columns. I'm going to set it to 3. This gives us a nicer grid over here. Next, we're going to scroll all the way down to the display options over here. Here we're able to add a image gap by moving the slider. So let's put a little bit of a gap, let's say 15 pixels. We can also select a different type of skin, which is really like a style of gallery over here. You can play around and try and find the one that you like. This is style 3, which is what I'm going to use in this tutorial over here. Okay, so we have style 3. We have a hover effect of a blur where we can see the image blurs, but this can also change to perhaps zooming in. We can select perhaps grayscale if we wanted to. I'm going to keep this at blur. Perfect. Now we have a link icon that we can change. If we wanted this to perhaps show us a different icon, we can go to our icon library and search between dozens of free icons if we wished. Likewise, if we had a video, we can change this icon as well. For Lightbox, Lightbox is when the user will click on this icon over here. This is the Lightbox. So here we can see the image that I have as the background over here. So this is one Lightbox style. We can scroll through the images. Here we see a number of images as well. So if I close that and click this again to go back to my media grid settings and back to Lightbox, we can play around with different Lightbox styles. I like to use called Pretty Photo, which came with it. this is how the pretty photo looks like. So there's a little play button if we wanted to allow it to automatically change images, or I can cycle through them like so. Not so important. So here we have our images in 3 columns, as well with a hover animation to blur the background, and we can see we have the image title and description that appears over here, along with the link that we had set to the hashtag default placeholder. But in your case, this link can bring you to a purchase product page, for example. Let's go ahead and start to import a special kind of header that I want to place over here. This is a standard heading element. I'm going to click and hit delete on my keyboard. This little spacer thing we can keep. This one I'm going to delete as well. Now I'm going to go into my Elements button over here, and I'm going to close the Basic, the Pro, and the General. When I get down to Premium Add-ons, I'm going to select one of their special elements called Dual Heading. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to drag it into the screen, and where the yellow horizontal line appears is where it's going to be placed. So let's place it over here for now. Now, what is a dual heading? A dual heading, as we can see, is a heading element where we can change the typography and style of each section of this heading. So what do I mean exactly by that? So let's play with these settings over here. First, I'm going to start by changing the text of my first heading over here. Let's put view my latest. And the second heading is going to be digital artwork. I'm going to leave these HTML tags as is. If we were to play around with them, it would play with the settings for default HTML tags. Each one allows us to have a heading number 1 size. So we're going to keep it as so. Now, it's a matter of going into the Style tab, where here we can play around with typography and background settings for the first heading, which is View My Latest. And then our second heading over here is going to be for our digital artwork component of this heading. So I'm able to play around with the settings over here, but I will leave it as this default text until I get to the styling component of this video. So please stick around till the end, and if you've made it this far, I'd like to take an opportunity to ask you to please like this video and consider subscribing to my channel. It really encourages me to continue producing awesome content like this video to all my viewers and YouTube out there. Now that we have our basic structure over here, which I'm content with, we're going to now dive into the detailed styling section of this video, where we're really going to make this image gallery pop, responsive, animate, that'll really entice your users to go ahead and view your products. So let's jump into that next section now. Let's get started with this styling section. I'm gonna go ahead and change the background for beginners over here by clicking on this button on top. Edit this section. I'm gonna go into style and I'm gonna choose an image for the background. However, I'm gonna upload a file. I will actually be uploading a GIF, which I've shown in another video how to convert any video file into a GIF. I will leave that tutorial in the description below. So once I've uploaded my GIF over here, I'm going to click on select. And now we can see that our background has changed. However, I would like to edit this just a little bit more. Let's go down to repeat, no repeat. And I'm going to go to display size cover. Okay, I'm going to also go to background overlay. I'm going to select a classic background type and I'm going to choose a black color over here, which I can then play around with this slider for opacity. Let's do something like this. I just want a subtle background effect, as we can see. And I can go ahead and click on update. Now the next step is I'm going to work on my header over here and change the styling in that. So let's go ahead and click on edit this dual heading. Now that we are in the style tab, I'm going to change the typography of the first section, the first heading. Let's change this font family to something like maybe Rubik. And let's make this perhaps bold and transform. Let's keep this normal like so. Okay, if we're okay with the settings, I can just click on this again. And let's change the color perhaps by clicking on our global colors. And we can select one of our themed colors over here. If not, we can go to our color picker and choose one as we wish. Let's select this theme color 5. So now we can see that our first section, our first heading, we have our color correct over here. If I'm happy with this first setting, I'm going to close this first heading and open up second heading. This is where this dual heading element really starts to take shape. So let's change the typography over here and let's choose a family of fonts called Righteous. We can keep the weight at 700 as well. And in this special case, so the rest I'm going to leave in capitals and whatnot. So let's click over here. Now background style, I'm going to select clipped. Okay, it disappears for a moment. I'm going to explain in just a second what's going to happen. And when I go down to background type, I'm going to select classic. And I'm going to actually upload another GIF that I've created. Okay, so now once this GIF loads, it is selected. I'm going to click on select. And now we can see that we have our GIF playing as a background over the second heading of our dual heading, just to give it that extra special effect. Okay, once I'm content with this, let's go down element by element and start fixing the rest of the colors. So over here, when I click on Edit Divider, I'm going to change this color by going to Style, selecting this global color and selecting global color number 5 to match our View My Latest over here. So if I click away, you can see that the color is now matched. Let's go ahead and continue editing the styling for this section over here by clicking on this Edit Media Grid button. We're going to now go into Style, Background Type. We're going to leave it blank in order to have this transparent background over here. Now we're going to go first of all to change these buttons up here. This is the filter settings. Typography, we are free to change the typography as well to match perhaps our header. So let's click on that and let's select the family of Rubik. It's a subtle change, but it makes the difference. So we have our typography under normal settings. We can also change under hover settings as well as on active settings. So under normal circumstance, we have a text color and a background color. Let's change this normal background color to our special color over here by clicking on this and going to saved color number 5. Oh, my apologies. I do not want to change the normal, so let's just do Control Z to go back. I want to change the active filter button, which is when we select. Let's change the background color to our theme color 5. Perfect. And under normal circumstance, let's change the color to white in order for it to contrast better on the background. And on hover conditions, let's change the text to the pink over here by going to text color number 5, so that when we hover, at least we can see that the text will change colors. And then when it comes time to click on them, it will switch to the active settings. Let's go back to the normal filter, rather the active filter. And we can start playing around with the border radius if we wish. As you can see, if I were to start playing with this slider, it actually changes the border settings and makes it more or less round. Let's keep it something like so. And likewise for the margin and padding, we can play around if we wanted to start adding specific padding numbers, but I'm gonna just hit Control Z and Control Z one more time and one more time, just to leave it like so. Perfect. So we have the filter section complete, and we can now move on to the images as well as the title descriptions and the icons styling. Before we continue, let's go ahead and click on the update button on the bottom. in order to not lose any of our changes. Let's start changing this by clicking on Image under the Style settings. We're able, first of all, to change the hover overlay color. Right now it is set to this light blue, which does not really match my theme. So let's go ahead and click on this default button, color number 5. Now we can see as we hover on top, we have this overlay color. However, if I would like to make this somewhat transparent in order to see the image behind, I'm going to click on this icon over here to open up the color picker. I am then going to start sliding this slider, which adds transparency to that color. So now we can see our image is somewhat appearing in the back. And if I further drag, again, I'm looking more for a subtle effect and not so much of a dramatic contrast. So I'm pretty content with this level of contrast over here. So we can click away from this box. Let's continue under our image settings. Once again, we can add a border and a border radius to our images in order to round out the corners. So let's give it a border radius of 20. Let's continue down to shadow. We can leave it like so. The rest I am not going to touch. Now let's go to title and description. Once again, this is the title and this is our description. We are able to change the color, the typography, as well as the background for this section over here. So if we wanted to perhaps change the color of the text, we can of course just simply click on our global icon color and find the color that we prefer. I'm thinking for some contrast, this green is looking pretty good to me, maybe a light blue. Let's keep it as this deep green. Now we can scroll down to our description we will leave. And for this background type, we have it set to a classic color over here. We can of course put an image, but if we wanted to play around with the color of the background, just for example, if I selected this purple, we now have this very strong purple background. However, I can make it a little bit less pungent by decreasing this slider. And as you can see, it blends more into the background. And we can play around with this slider as well in order to change the tone. And it's a matter of your personal interests and finding something that matches the contrast that you're trying to portray. This looks pretty neat to me. So we've changed the background type. We can also add border radius as well, which will round out the corners. But for this tutorial, let's leave this at 0. Let's go on to icons settings. Here, once again, we can play around with the size as well as the colors on normal conditions as well as hover conditions. So let's change the color of normal conditions to a background color of. Let's try something like black. And the black is a little bit too contrasty. Let's do something dark like this dark purple. A little bit more contrast. Perhaps our theme color 5. So this matches our other colors, but upon hovering, so we go to now to hover. Instead of this red, let's change it to our green over here by clicking on this icon, going to accent. This looks a little bit better to me. Of course, feel free to play around and change any of your colors over here. Once again, we can play around with border and margins, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to leave it like so. Once we've gone through all of these settings over here, I'm going to click on Update, and I'm going to go back and open up this page by clicking on the top left-hand side here. And I'm going to actually right-click and open up in a new tab. And here's what our gallery section is starting to look like. So we have our GIF background over here, along with our dual header and GIF background for this text over here. And we have our beautiful gallery where we can filter by artwork under faces category, as well as nature category. We can view them all. We have the nice hover effect as we go over each of these elements, and the light box effect by clicking on it and viewing the full-sized image. Maybe I would like to shrink these images just a little bit. So let's go back to Elementor and click once again on this edit button over here. Oops, let's go back on the top left. Okay, now we can click over here and we can go to Style and Image. Rather, we're going to go to Content and then Display Options. There you go. And we can play around with this gap. If we were to increase it a bit, we can see that the size of the images will shrink. So let's leave it something like so. That is looking great to me. We can click on Update, and if we go back to our website page and hit refresh, we can see now that our page has uploaded. Let's just hit refresh one more time. Okay, perfect. So our images have now shrunk, and we have our beautiful gallery here with our animations full into effect. Here I needed 2 more in order to have even columns and rows, given that we had 10 images and rows of 3. So we're missing 2 more, that's not important. And from here, I believe that we have wrapped up this section of this tutorial, which in turn means we have wrapped up this tutorial. If you have found this content interesting and informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. This way you can stay up to date with any of my tutorials related to web design and other graphical design elements. In this tutorial, I showed you how to create this beautiful gallery where we can filter as well as hover and view more information such as a URL, a title, and description. If you're interested in finding out how to create this GIF using any video file, please view the URL that I left in my description and it'll bring you to that full YouTube tutorial. My name is Sam from Sam Tech. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. This encourages me to create more and more content for everyone out there. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will be sure to answer every single one of them. Until next time, my name is Sam. Thank you.